My favorite Central Park walk. Hi, I'm Megan, a licensed New York City tour guide, and today I'm going to show you my favorite way to spend 1 hour in Central Park. We're gonna walk from the west side to the east side and see sites that have been used in movies, beautiful spots that are great to take photos, a lot of wonderful history, and just a great way to spend an hour outside in Central Park. But before we start, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss a New York Minute.
Yeah, Muffin Talk. Ooh, Muffin Talk. Muffin Talks, bringing healing to those who need the most.
Central Park is 840 acres in size, and you could spend days and days and days in the park and keep discovering new adventures. This is my favorite way to spend 1 hour in Central Park. I enter from 72nd Street in Central Park West and then walk east through the park to emerge on the Upper East Side. The best way to get to 72nd Street and Central Park West is to take the B as in boy or the C as in cat train to 72nd Street. You'll get off the train right here. Right across the way is the entrance to Central Park. Easy breezy, lemon squeezy. One of the reasons why I love entering the park at 72nd Street and Central Park West is because you will be at the Dakota. The Dakota is one of the most interesting buildings in New York City. It was the very first luxury apartment building to be built in this neighborhood that we know today as the Upper West Side. It might be kind of hard to believe as you look around. You'll see lots of luxury apartment buildings today. But there was a time when the area was basically like beyond the suburbs. What was considered New York City did not extend really above 14th Street. So to come all the way up here to 72nd Street, that was going way out of your way. And then a man named Edward Clark came along. Edward Clark was heir to the Singer sewing factory fortune, and he decided to build a luxury apartment building for Manhattan's elite all the way up here on 72nd Street. And people looked at him like he had grown a second head. They said, "You're crazy, why would you do that? You may as well build a luxury apartment building for Manhattan's elite in North Dakota." And Edward Clark said, "Hey, my building is going to be amazing. And to show all of you haters, I'm going to call my building the Dakota." So the Dakota opened up in 1884. This is the Dakota, and it was a huge success. So many famous people have lived in the Dakota. People ranging from Rudolf Nureyev, the ballet dancer, to Leonard Bernstein, the composer, to Judy Garland, the actress, and Boris Karloff, who was the original Frankenstein in the Frankenstein movies. But the most important, or perhaps not the most important, but the most famous person to ever live in the Dakota, like the real reason why people from all over the world to stare at this building, was John Lennon. John Lennon lived in the Dakota with his wife, Yoko Ono. He was living in the Dakota on December 8th, 1980, when in the morning he started his day having a photo shoot for Rolling Stone magazine. He then went to work in a recording studio, took his wife Yoko Ono, they had dinner, and they came home. And when they came home to the Dakota, there was a crazed man who decided that he wanted to become famous. And the best way to become famous was to become known as the man who murdered John Lennon. So he was waiting at the Dakota for John Lennon to come home. He fired his gun and murdered John Lennon. Now, I do not say that man's name because I do not believe that murdering somebody is the way to become famous or to have your name known throughout the world. But for days afterwards, people came to the Dakota. They laid out flowers, they lit candles, they sang John Lennon songs, and they celebrated John Lennon's life. And that celebration then poured out into this area of Central Park that we are entering from 72nd Street. And this area would become known as Strawberry Fields. So we're going to enter Strawberry Fields and see the John Lennon Memorial. So follow me. Right here, we are entering Strawberry Fields. Interestingly enough, they try to plant strawberries in strawberry fields. doesn't really grow incredibly well. Occasionally you'll see a tiny strawberry called a field strawberry valiantly reaching up towards the heavens. Usually birds end up eating the strawberries. Strawberry Fields gets its name from the John Lennon song, Strawberry Fields Forever. And if you follow this path, we're going to get to the John Lennon Memorial. Follow me? A really cool thing about Strawberry Fields is there's often street musicians, often singing Beatles songs. Some of them are really good, some of them need to practice a little bit more. This one's really good, so I'm gonna give him a tip. If you like the music, tip your musicians. Right now, I am standing on the John Lennon Memorial. You can see it says the word Imagine on it. If you know the Beatles, it of course makes you think of the song Imagine. Otherwise, it just invites you into the park to imagine. And you can stand on it, sit on it, dance on it. My favorite photo is to kind of kneel down behind Imagine and give me some peace signs. John Lennon would have approved. From the Imagine mosaic, I'm going to veer slightly to my left and walk down this path to get to our next secret spot. I'm king of the rock. I like this rock. There's actually a plaque in the middle of this rock. I always feel like I forget how to talk when I make these videos. And you'll see it says Strawberry Fields, imagine all the people, living life in peace, John Lennon. And you'll see that this plaque was dedicated on October 9th, 1985. And you will see that it lists the names of a bunch of different countries. These were all countries that donated money to help revive this area of the park and get it dedicated as Strawberry Fields. As you look at the names of these countries, you'll notice they're listed in alphabetical order. These countries donated money in the name of peace, and some of these countries, like if you look at it, the very first country that's listed is Afghanistan. And right now in 2021, it's interesting to think about whether or not the United States or Afghanistan are at peace. And you'll also see some countries that don't exist anymore. So for example, you'll see the Soviet Union. You will also see the Federal Republic of Germany. The Federal Republic of Germany and the German Democratic Republic. Why do we have two Germanys? That's because that's when the Berlin Wall still stood. So to me, this plaque is really interesting because it kind of stands here as a time capsule about how much in the world has changed since 1985. This rock that I'm sitting on now that has the Strawberry Fields plaque on it, this rock, you'll see it all over Central Park. This is the bedrock of New York City. The bedrock of New York City has a really exciting name. It is called schist. Manhattan is built on a giant pile of schist. You can have as much fun with that as you would like as you walk through Central Park and New York City. Just know that this rock is actually really important because it's super strong, and that's what allows us to anchor our giant skyscrapers into the ground, which allows 8.5 million people to live in New York City, which is only about 305 square miles in size. So thank you, schist. So we are going to continue our walk. I try to gracefully get up, and we're going to continue to walk down this path. This shocks a lot of people. There is a crosswalk in Central Park. There are several crosswalks in Central Park. We actually want to wait until we get the walk sign because you'll see lots of cyclists coming through and they don't always want to stop, and nor should they stop because they have the right of way until we have the walk. So we're just gonna chill here until we have the walk. Okay, we now have the walk.
Hi, Megan.
Hi!
You don't probably remember me, but it's nice to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm really excited. So we have the statue of Daniel Webster, not the dictionary Daniel Webster. This was a United States politician from New York. And if you look up right now, because it's summertime, look in his arm and in his hand, there are birds' nests. I love coming to Central Park in spring and seeing those birds' nests. Right next to our Daniel Webster statue, you will see a fire hydrant. This fire hydrant is actually a clue to Central Park's past. So this fire hydrant isn't really for putting out fires. It actually connects to a huge network of pipes that are underneath Central Park. So when I first came to New York and I looked around Central Park, I thought, this is what the Lenape Indians must have experienced before the Europeans came to mess everything up. This is natural New York. I was wrong. Every single square inch of Central Park is man-made. The blades of grass are planted, the trees are planted, and even the bodies of water that we're gonna see on this walk have been man-made, and the levels are controlled with a series of pipes underneath our feet right now. And this fire hydrant is a clue to that. So just like to call this fire hydrant out. But right now I'm gonna continue to walk. I've been walking from the west to the east, and we're gonna continue our intrepid journey. As you continue to walk to the east side, you're going to see the statue known as the Falconer. This is actually the third incarnation of the Falconer that stood here, and this is not his original falcon. His original falcon has been stolen. But I actually read somewhere that the Falconer, the inspiration for the statue was actually a line in Romeo and Juliet. Juliet, during the famous balcony scene, says, "Oh, for a falconer's voice to call this gentle tassel back again." I'm ashamed of myself for not being able to quote it perfectly. But she's trying to call Romeo back, and this was inspired by that. When you get to the Falconer, you're gonna kind of have this crossroads. You can continue to go straight, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna actually go left, and we're gonna get to an area known as Cherry Hill. So let's go. Behind me is Cherry Hill Fountain. Lots of people see this fountain and they say, "Oh my goodness, it's the fountain from Friends." This is not the fountain from Friends. The fountain from Friends, I'm gonna crush your dreams, was actually on a soundstage in California. However, there is a tour guide motto that says, "Never let the truth get in the way of a good story." So if you want to tell your friends that you saw the fountain from Friends, don't let me stop you. Be my guest. Take all the photos that you want. Also, you can get a horse and carriage ride here. I actually love the horse and carriage rides. I know, chill out in the comments. People are probably gonna write some very hateful comments about that. I actually think that it's a really lovely way to spend some time in Central Park. And Cherry Hill is a great place to pick it up. This tree is a Yoshino cherry tree. Right now, it does not look like a cherry tree because it's not blossoming. There's only a very ephemeral moment when these trees blossom, these beautiful pink cherry blossoms, and people flock really from all over the world, but especially New York City, to this area known as Cherry Hill for photos with the cherry trees. However, it is still a really nice place to just come and picnic or walk through. And as we walk down this path, we're gonna see the real reason why. Even if the cherry blossoms aren't in season, this is one of the most beautiful areas of New York City. Look at this view from this area. We've just descended from Cherry Hill. You get to see this beautiful lake. You'll see rowboats out on the lake. You can rent those rowboats. I'll show you where in just a little bit. You see these beautiful luxury apartment buildings. You see the lush landscape of Central Park. I could literally sit here for hours and just enjoy this view. And they have benches, so you can do that. It's also really romantic here, so if I wasn't making my fiance hold the camera, it would be a really nice place for us to sit together and just enjoy the view and have a little bit of a date. Whenever you see these glorious pictures of influencers in Central Park, they're standing right here, and they often look out and, I don't know, do their beautiful poses and their beautiful dresses. But this is the area, so just off of Cherry Hill. And as we walk, we're actually going to see the Bow Bridge, which was used in the Spider-Man movies. Now, I love superhero movies, but I don't know which Spider-Man movie that bridge was used in. If you do, please comment below, but the people who love Spider-Man get really excited about Bow Bridge. I love coming to Bow Bridge just to spend a couple minutes here. It's a great place to take photos. It's also a great place to get a gorgeous view. You get to see the rowboats going underneath you. Right now we have some beautiful music playing. You don't feel like you're in a city with 8.5 million people living in it right now. I didn't cross over Bow Bridge, I just stopped in it for a quick second to get a view. Now I'm going to continue down this path. I'm continuing my theme of walking east, and we're going to get to Bethesda Terrace. Bethesda Fountain. You will probably recognize this from almost every movie and every television show ever filmed in New York City, from Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, to Gossip Girl, to Elf, to Enchanted. This is the biggest movie star that we have. Our Angel of the Water statue. The statue was designed by a woman named Emma Stebbins, and it was the first major work of public art in New York City that was ever commissioned for a woman to make. So, yay, woman power! But when this angel was first unveiled, New Yorkers looked at her and they were like, no, my eyes, it is too offensive. What is so offensive about our Angel of the Water? Well, if you look, you will notice that she is showing her ankles. No! But in the mid-1800s, that was basically the equivalent of Miley Cyrus swinging in naked on her wrecking ball. But then New Yorkers were like, you know what? We're New Yorkers. We ain't afraid of no ankles. And we came to love our Angel of the Water. I guess no one cared about the 4 naked babies underneath the angel's ankle. This area is fabulous. There's often street performers here, people making giant bubbles. And if we go underneath this overpass, we'll get to see some live musicians today. And if you look up, you'll see these beautiful tiles. I'm just going to enjoy the music for a minute. As we go through this area and we get to enjoy the beautiful tiles, you'll notice a staircase. If you were to go halfway up the staircase, you will get to restrooms. The ladies will be on your left, the gentlemen will be on your right. Great to know when walking through Central Park. But we're actually going to not go use the loos right now. We're going to walk back towards our Angel of the Water, veer right, and continue our intrepid journey to the east side. As you head out of Bethesda Terrace, continuing your trek to the east side, you will see this little green hut. This is where you would rent those rowboats. Now the prices change every year. It's now 2021, so right now it is $20 to rent the boat, but you also have to put down another $20 as your deposit, and then as long as you return the boat, you will get the deposit of $20 back. So it says you need a total of $40 to get on the boat, but you will get 20 of that back. I don't know if people were like stealing rowboats, so they had to create an incentive to get people to return them. It is a wonderful activity. Very romantic if you want to do it on a date. Great to do with a family, great to do with friends. I love renting these rowboats. The place where you rent the rowboats is actually attached to the Loeb Boathouse, which is one of the fine dining restaurants inside of Central Park. This was also featured in the movie 27 Dresses. They have delicious food and you cannot beat the view. It is a little on the pricey side. I'm looking at what the menu, the current menu is. It looks like the main courses range between $27 for the vegetarian option, all the way up to $38 for the petite filet. But it is a great view and a unique, one-of-a-kind New York City experience. Around the back of the big fancy Boathouse restaurant, there's this little food area where you can actually get everything from like soups and salads to, they usually have hamburgers and hot dogs there. Everything is under $12. So it's a great way to have a delicious picnic, be part of the Boathouse, and be in Central Park. This is a statue of one of my favorite humans who has ever lived. This is Hans Christian Andersen. He was a Danish children's book writer, and he wrote books such as The Ugly Duckling. So we have The Ugly Duckling here. The book that Hans is reading is actually open up to the first page of The Ugly Duckling. He also wrote The Little Mermaid, which is one of my favorite stories ever, and the story that would become Frozen. So thank you, Hans. And in Frozen, you'll know the character of Hans, named after Hans Christian Andersen. They often have children's hour where they'll read to kids here. And actually today, if you turn around, there's painting that's happening, which is kind of cool. This body of water is meant to look man-made. A lot of people think that they recognize it from the movie Stuart Little. Again, Stuart Little wasn't filmed here, it was filmed on a soundstage, but it was meant to be recreated to look like this body of water. And during normal times, you can actually rent these electric sailboats and race them or play with them on this body of water. And occasionally there's like a Le Pain Quotidien, which isn't open now, but you can get light bites around this area and enjoy the view. Oh, and a lot of birders. Really, there's a building that has 3 windows. It's kind of a short building. It has 3 windows. There's actually a bird's nest over the very top curved window, and that belongs to a red-tailed hawk named Pale Mail. And he's a great sign that our ecosystem is coming back in New York City. So you'll sometimes see people here looking at that building with telescopes, and they're not creepy stalking on people. They're creepy stalking a red-tailed hawk. This is my good friend Alice in Wonderland. It is a statue that's also known as the Margarita Delacorte Memorial. She was the wife of a famous New York City philanthropist, George C. Delacorte. The Delacorte Theater, where Shakespeare in the Park happens every year, is named after him. And apparently Margarita Delacorte used to read Alice in Wonderland to her kids every night when they were young. So after she passed away, her husband commissioned this giant sculpture, and it's really fun. You can climb on her, take your picture. It's really fun for kids who like to use it as a playground. So, Alice in Wonderland. All around the Alice in Wonderland sculpture are Lewis Carroll quotes, and this is always a fan favorite. It's an excerpt from The Jabberwocky, which is a poem by Lewis Carroll as well. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wave. All mimsy were the borough groves, and the mome raths outgrave. My dad used to actually read this poem to me as a kid, so I feel a little bad that it wasn't me that caught this and that I may have had some pronunciation issues. But there's a word here that says it's all mimsy were the borough groves, but in the actual Jabberwocky poem, it's borough goves. So it was actually David that just pointed that out to me. That should be borough gove. So we don't know if that's an alternate spelling or an alternate version of the poem. If you know, please comment below, because this is the first time that anyone's pointed it out to me, and I'm really curious about that. From the Alice in Wonderland sculpture, this is where I exit the park. So I exit behind Alice in Wonderland, I veer right. There's a bit of a windy path, but you'll be able to see buildings. So you want to walk towards the buildings and you'll exit the park. And when we exit the park, I'll talk about where to go from there. This is the area where I like to exit the park. You'll be exiting at 76th Street and 5th Avenue. Now, if you were to turn right from here and go south, you could actually get to the Central Park Zoo, which is the zoo that was used in the movie Madagascar, which people go crazy about. If zoos aren't your thing, you could make a left out of the park and head north. And just a few blocks north, you would get to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the largest art museum in New York City. You could spend months and months and months in there and not see everything in that museum. There's also a rooftop exhibit in the summertime, and it's really lovely to go out on the rooftop and get a bird's eye view of Central Park. The museum is actually in Central Park, just a couple blocks north of where we are. If you don't want to go to a museum or don't want to go to the zoo, you can just keep walking straight ahead and you will eventually get to the subway. I'm actually going to include in the comments a map that has all of the stops where we went. I'll also have the subway, the zoo, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this walk through Central Park. Make sure you hit subscribe. I have tons of other videos about New York City. If you hit subscribe, it helps me help you get your very best New York City experience. Thank you so much for watching.